I have, literally right now, right in front of your face, 4 different Les Paul custom style guitars. They all are very similar in their aesthetic, but very wildly in their pricing. And the reason that I wanted to make this video is I commonly get asked things like, why would you spend so much money on a guitar? Guitars should cost $36.75. Well, maybe they're not that extreme, but you get my point. These 4 guitars are at various prices, from the cheapest coming in at around $200 to the most expensive coming in at around $4,000 US. Now, why would anyone in their right mind pay $4,000 for a guitar? That seems ridiculous, right? Well, what I hope to do today is walk you through these different guitars, their strengths and weaknesses. Spoiler, it's usually the headstock. And through all of that together, we can figure out why boomers spend so much money on guitars. All right, that intro is obviously in jest. They're iconic for many reasons. They're also notorious for many other reasons. Now, if you do want to buy one of these guitars, I'm going to link them down below. Those are affiliate links through Zounds, who did not sponsor this video, but did let me borrow a couple guitars to try out before I potentially buy one. But I think it's totally reasonable to want a Les Paul style guitar at some point in your tone questing journey. Speaking of tone quests, that is actually what started me down this path. As a Gibson noob, I didn't know much about them other than how people had badmouthed them on the internet, and I'm not here to defend Gibson. They've made some really cringe PR choices.
The manufacturers out there, we want you to know that you've been warned.
However, there is a lot of validation to the legacy of the guitar company. We're going to talk more about that later on in the video. Speaking of later on in this video, there's going to be a lot to cover with 4 different guitars. I will potentially do more with these guitars in future videos, like individual videos, but for this video specifically, I'm going to try and condense what I normally would do in one of these guitar videos. That being said, if you want to see a specific model, you can use the chapters to jump to that section, or don't, you can just hang out and listen to me make outdated jokes that only elder millennials get.
Cut it out.
But with all of the things said, let's start with the cheapest guitar setup, and we'll work our way monetarily through these guitars. This is the Firefly FFSP Elite electric guitar. It has a mahogany body with a set mahogany neck, a rosewood fretboard, stainless steel ball end frets, and it also comes with a bone nut. And other than that, their website doesn't really have any specifications, so the rest of the parts are just kind of a mystery, but they do come in at $199.96, and I feel like that's kind of crazy for these specs. Okay, so strings off on the Firefly here. A few things that you'll notice right away. You just have like cheap import hardware here. That shouldn't be really surprising for the price you're paying for this guitar. You have these unbranded tuners, even though they look like Grover tuners. Probably much the same with the pickups as well. But with that being said, these guitars are like $200 new. And I feel like what you get for that $200 is a lot. I mean, we do have an alleged solid mahogany body. It is a set neck. It does have the back binding that you would find on a Les Paul Custom. The fretwork is really good. These are stainless steel frets. They are ball end stainless steel frets, so you can see the ends are very, very rounded here. We do just have a plastic nut on here. This isn't bone or anything. This is just hard plastic. But all in all, what you're getting for $200 is pretty insane. It's a pretty insane deal. So the neck thickness up here at the first fret is 22.42 millimeters, which is 0.88 inches. And then up here at the 12th fret, we have 25.56 millimeters, or 1.1 inch, basically, 1 inch. So that is a much, much thicker neck than I would like personally. But if you can see the profile here, it is pretty rounded. It is not uncomfortable to play. Not nearly as uncomfortable in my hands as the 59 traditional neck profile from Gibson. Another thing I want to point out here while we have the guitar flipped over, we do have a volute. So spec-wise, that volute would be in line with the 70s custom Gibson Les Paul, which we will look at here in a second. Our nut width is 43.22 millimeters, or 1.70 inches, and our width up here at the 12th fret is 53.44 millimeters, or 2.10 inches. And again, for a guitar in this price range, the fretwork is very, very good. I'm not finding any uneven frets at all here. And to quantify these frets for you, because they do feel like vintage frets, if you're used to jumbo frets, these are gonna maybe feel a little bit weird to you. 2.65 millimeters, that's 0.10 inches wide, and then high, they are 1.18 millimeters high, which is 0.049, it's basically 0.05 inches. So yeah, that's what kind of fret wire they're using on these guitars. Okay, and then for output on the pickups, we have 14.88 on the bridge. On the neck, we are at 7.4241, and in the middle, 4.95. And as far as issues or anything with this guitar, I don't really have anything I need to address. It's not even really that dirty or anything, but I'll just give it a wipe down and put new strings on it. Okay, so everything is done and set up. I just wanted to explain this real quick. I'm using Stringjoy 11 through 56 and tuning all of these guitars to C standard. Same strings, same tunings on all the guitars just to keep everything the same. Let's move on to the LTD. This is the LTD Eclipse EC256. It is a mahogany guitar with a neck through 3-piece mahogany neck. The neck shape is listed as thin U with a 13.7 inch radius, which is kind of weird. It has 22 extra jumbo frets, scale length of 24 3/4 inches, a molded plastic nut, ESP designed LH150 humbuckers, 2 volume knobs, 2 tone knobs, and you can push-pull coil split on this one. And one of the things I want to warn you about if you are looking at these guitars have come with both rosewood and roasted Jatoba fingerboards. They are very, very different in appearance, and I have come across mixed up listings, meaning I've come across brand new listings with pictures of rosewood fretboards, but having roasted Jatoba listed in the specifications and vice versa, so do your due diligence on this one. And at the time of making this video, these come in new at $499. Okay, so in terms of neck thickness on the LTD EC256, we're at 20.41 millimeters or 0.804 inches at the first fret. That goes to 22.65 millimeters or 0.89 inches up at the 12th fret here. The nut width is 41.81 millimeters or 1.64 inches, and the width up at the 12th fret is 53.71 millimeters or 2.11 freedom units. And this, out of all of the guitars in this list, has the largest frets. To give you an idea of what that is, are 2.6 millimeters or 0.10 inches wide and 1.5657 millimeters or 0.06 inches tall. It's a pretty noticeable difference from all the other guitars. These are more modern size frets. Okay, for the output on the pickups, this is actually super surprising to me. We are at 15.64 on the bridge, 11.67 on the neck, 6.69 in the middle. The reason I say that's surprising to me is because these felt the weakest out of all the pickups. You'll see that more in this video, but yeah, these just felt the weakest out of all the pickups to me, so let's get the Inspired by Gibson Epiphone set up. This is the Epiphone Inspired by Gibson Custom Les Paul Custom. Now, the first thing that you will probably notice about this guitar that is a step above the others is it actually comes with a hard case. It is a solid mahogany guitar with a maple top, and it has 7-ply binding on the top of the guitar and 5-ply binding on the back and the headstock. The neck is a set 1-piece mahogany neck with a 50s rounded medium C profile. More on that later on in the video. It has an ebony fingerboard with 22 frets, and these are smaller vintage style frets, true mother of pearl block inlays. On the electronics end, we have a Gibson USA 490R in the neck and a 498T in the bridge, and in true Les Paul fashion, individual volume and tone controls for each one of those pickups. This guitar also has hand-wired CTS potentiometers and Mallory capacitors, and all of that comes in at $1299 at the time making this video. Okay, we have the Inspired by Gibson Epiphone Custom Les Paul, mouthful of words, up here on the bench. Big difference in terms of quality, obviously big difference in terms of price as well. I mean, look at this fingerboard though. The fingerboard looks great. The inlays look really good too. And not just nice for the money. Like it looks really, really nice. I'm really impressed with this thing so far. But let's get the strings off. Let's see if we find anything weird. Now, we do have cheaper hardware on this guitar as well. This is just like Epiphone hardware. I'd probably replace this at some point eventually. The thing with this cheaper hardware is just like on a Floyd Rose with cheaper metals, the metal will wear out, it'll bend quicker. These slots right here in the bridge will get wider, just everything will stop working the way it's supposed to. quicker. Now, I really like the pickups in these so far. You know, if I was gonna keep this guitar, I don't think I'd change them. I think I'd probably keep the stock pickups in them for a while at least. I really like the triple binding. I think that's such a nice touch. Obviously the ebony fretboard, it looks great. Now when it comes to the fretwork, I think the fretwork is actually a little bit better on the LTD. This is still a little bit sharp. Like this feels like it could have been polished up a little bit more. Nothing's sticking out the ends because we have the binding here obviously, so there's no tang to stick out of the ends, but you can just see here on the ends it's not rounded as much. There's more hard angles, so you know, it just makes it a little bit more uncomfortable there on the ends. I am going to oil the fretboard just because, you know, you should do that anyways between string changes, but that's pretty much it. With that, the nut is 42.99, almost exactly 43 millimeters. That is 1.69 inches. Up here at the 12th fret, we are looking at 53.09 millimeters or 2.09 inches. Up here at the first fret, we are at 21.16 millimeters or 0.83 inches. And then up here at the 12th fret, we are at 25.11 millimeters or 0.98 inches. And you can see it does have a pretty round C-shaped contour, and then obviously like up here at the nut, it does flatten out a little bit. Now this one does not have a volute. That is what it is. Let's check the output on the pickups. Now I just want to preface this with, I think that these are my favorite pickups out of all of these guitars, so I'm interested to see what they measure at. So on the bridge, we are at 13.63. On the neck, we're at 7.58. And then in the middle, we have 4.88. There you go. And finally, the most expensive and indeed the most collectible guitar on this list, the one that all of the other guitars are taking their inspiration from, the Gibson Les Paul Custom. This is a Gibson Les Paul Custom, specifically a 70s reissue Les Paul Custom. It features a mahogany body with a maple top, multi-ply top, back and headstock binding, single ply binding on the fretboard. It has a set maple neck and true to 70s specifications, it comes with a volute. The scale length is 24.75 inches. It has 22 vintage style frets with the fret nibs. The fingerboard material is made out of ebony. It comes with a Graph Tech nut. On the electronic side, we have calibrated T-type humbuckers, individual volume and tone controls for each one of those pickups, as well as witch hat style knobs. And on the hardware end, we have an aluminum Nashville Tune-O-Matic bridge and aluminum stop bar. We'll get into that more here in a minute, as well as Grover Rotomatic tuners with keystone buttons. This also comes with a hard shell case. I feel like most people know that, but maybe some people don't. And at the time of making this video, this guitar is a whopping 3,999 clams, or shekels, whatever you want to call dollars. Like you heard in the specs, this is one of the newer Gibson Les Paul Customs, the 70s reissue, which means it has a volute. And if you're not familiar with these guitars, they have fret nibs, which is where the binding actually comes up and joins the frets here. Now the deal with this is it looks cool, but if you get this guitar refretted in the future, it's very, very expensive to refret and keep these because it's a much more difficult process than just setting the fret and cutting the ends off. You actually have to cut this to fit in the binding. And if this neck ever shrinks or anything, you're gonna crack these off. Okay, I know a lot of people that are interested in these guitars like to peek under the pickups here, and you can see EB in the pocket. It's a Rhythm Cal T type pickup with the date of May 19th, 2025 on it. No Gibson stamp on the pickup though, that's interesting. And then under the bridge pickup, we have LPC U7. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Les Paul Custom something 7. And again, we have one of these lead Cal T type pickups with a date of May 19th, 2025. I think it's kind of interesting. There's no Gibson stamps on the pickups, but I also don't really know a ton about these guitars. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Another thing that I found kind of interesting about this guitar is this bridge feels super duper cheap. Like this bridge feels the cheapest out of any of them so far. And when we look at the back, it says advanced plating. It's definitely not a brass bridge or anything like that. Like these pieces feel super light. They feel like plated aluminum or something. Okay, so I actually looked into this and it looks like Gibson started using these plated aluminum bridges somewhere around 2017. A lot of people in the forums are really disappointed by this. Gibson claims that this helps with overtones and sustain or whatever, but a lot of Gibson fans feel slighted by this, like Gibson is gaslighting them and just trying to produce these bridges to save production costs. Either way, I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. I think at $4,000 you deserve at least a Tone Pro bridge, but what do I know? Let me get out a scale and actually weigh them. So the tailpiece weighs 1.2 ounces. The actual bridge weighs 1.1 ounces. To give you some sort of frame of reference for this is a very inexpensive Tune-o-matic style bridge setup that I bought off Amazon. And the tailpiece weighs 2.5 ounces. And this is a different roller type bridge, but you get the idea. It weighs 2.8 ounces. So I don't know, it's a little bit surprising to me. It feels like if you're paying that much money for a guitar, you should probably get like the best bridge there is on it, right? But I'm just a guy on the internet. What do I know? Luckily, they did actually put the Keystone Grover tuners on this. I'm not a big fan of those kidney bean tuners. I just think they look weird on a Gibson Les Paul. We have a nut width of 43.09 millimeters, and that's 1.69 inches. And up at the 12th fret, that's 53.08 millimeters, or 2.09 inches. Neck thickness up here at the first fret, we're at 20.08 millimeters, or 0.79 inches. This seems very thin to me for a Gibson neck. Maybe a little bit thicker or more on par with the 60s style slim taper neck. But yeah, definitely more on the thin side. And up here at the 12th fret, that goes all the way up to 23.9 millimeters or 0.94 inches. So pretty dramatic taper from the 1st to 12th fret on that. And if you look here, you can sort of see the profile on it. It's pretty C-shaped, pretty rounded, definitely much thinner up here near the nut. And it does get quite a bit thicker as we get closer to the body there. And here's the electronics cavity, probably what all of you expect, but this is all hand wired. It's not using their quick connect system or anything. Just the little things you might want to know. I'm just going to wipe this down, clean off the neck a little bit, and put the new strings on it. Again, 11 through 56, string joy, C standard, you know the deal. What's up, guys? We have a lot of guitars to get through today, so let me just dive right into this. I have the Firefly first. That is running into this Marshall JCM 800. This is a 1986, I believe, Marshall JCM 800. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 87. This is not a reissue. This is an actual stock 80s Marshall JCM 800. I'm boosting that with the devil from my company, 𝗦ncision Audio. If you are unfamiliar with this, think about it like a tube screamer on steroids with a built-in noise gate, which is really great for boosting a JCM 800. That is running through this 𝗦ci oversized cabinet. I was gonna get out a Marshall cabinet, but then I remembered that Gibson owns 𝗦ci Boogie now, so it seemed on brand. That's the excuse I gave myself because I didn't want to move the cabinet. Now, I think this guitar sounds really good through this setup. And I get a lot of criticism a lot of times, like,
oh, you're running a budget guitar through a really expensive guitar. Like,
I did make a video a while back on a Firefly Les Paul custom looking guitar that had a very Les Paul problem, if you remember that one. Just straight up crack city. And you know, I didn't drop this very hard. I mean, it fell from a standing position on the floor, face down on the headstock. Yeah, that was unfortunate. But I did make a video on that, and in that video, I did run it through a more budgety rig. So, you know, if you want to see that, just go there. That's not what this video is about. This video is just comparing the guitars. So let's turn the preamp down and see if we can get a clean sound out of this amplifier. Here's the bridge. The neck. And the middle. Yeah, the immediate things that I notice about playing this guitar are the thickness of the neck. This guitar has a noticeably chunkier neck than all the others, but if you are like a Les Paul purist, like you don't like the 60s slim taper neck, you like the 59 traditional baseball neck, you might vibe with this one a little bit more because it is a little bit of a chunkier neck. But in my opinion, it does have a little bit more comfortable of a shape than that 59 traditional Gibson neck. But in terms of quality, I'm not having any issues with this guitar. It's holding tuning really well. It plays well, you know, aside from the neck being a little bit chunky for my taste. I can't fault it for that. These guitars make no sense for the amount of money they cost. So yeah, let's keep this thing moving and get to the LTD now. Okay, this is the LTD Eclipse. This is the EC256 model, which comes in like the sort of Les Paul-ish trim, but it's more of like the budget option. Now, the reason I didn't include the 𝗦ci𝗰𝗶 in this video, which would be a more fair comparison to the more expensive guitars on this list, is because I feel like this is a really good price point. And I've made a couple videos on these guitars before. I did have one previously, and if memory serves me correctly, that one had a rosewood fingerboard, which is the thing I don't like about this guitar specifically. We have that Jatoba fingerboard, in my opinion, is just kind of an eyesore. Now, out of all of these guitars, this one is definitely the most ergonomic. I mean, we have a belly cut on the back end. We have a cutaway up here for upper fret access. We do have the same sort of neck joint as the other guitars right here, that like squarish sort of Gibson neck joint, and the guitar itself is just in general thinner. We also have the volute on this one, if that matters to you. The neck is just thinner. It feels more like a metal guitar. Now, for some of you, that might feel like blasphemy. You might feel like, I want to play a Les Paul, like I want to play like a rock and roll guitar. This feels too much like a metal guitar. I think that's a totally fair and reasonable criticism. Actually, the reason that I got rid of the last Eclipse 256 that I had was because I never played it. It was like too much of a metal guitar for me, but I had other metal guitars that I liked more. And you know, I bought this one specifically for this video, but probably is not a guitar I'm gonna hold on to. I am gonna hold on to one of these guitars, I'm fairly sure. We'll get into that more later in the video, but you know, it's, you know, spoilers, it's not this one. Go back to our semi-clean channel here, and then here's the bridge. Here's the neck. And the middle. We also have a coil tap on this, so here's the coil tap bridge. Coil tapped neck. And middle. So the Eclipse, the more comfortable out of the bunch, this one being, you know, a budget, best bang for your buck option. You know, if you wanted to go for 1000 series, especially used, $700 to $800, you get an ebony fretboard. It kind of takes care of my main issue with this guitar. You do get nicer locking tuners, probably nicer pickups in it as well. I'm not exactly 100% on that, but I think they come with different electronics as well. So, you know, these are just things to consider. Let's move on to the next one, which is the Epiphone. Okay, this is the Gibson Les Paul inspired by Gibson custom Les Paul custom Gibson inspired by Epiphone. It's got a ridiculously long name, but it's a very cool guitar. You can see this one has the Gibson open book headstock. Now, a lot of what you're paying for with this guitar is that Gibson open book headstock, because the next step down in Epiphone Les Paul custom, which would be a totally valid contender on this list, is like $800. This one is $1,300. You don't have fret nibs. There is no volute on the back of this neck. You do have the kidney bean tuners, which is personally my least favorite part about this guitar. But I think in terms of value, what this guitar offers is really cool, because you have an ebony fretboard. It comes with a hard shell case. It comes with all like the trim you would find on a Gibson Les Paul custom, just at a much cheaper price. You could buy 3 of these guitars for the cost of 1 Gibson Les Paul custom. You know what I mean? And I think in terms of sound quality, this guitar sounds and plays really, really great. To me, this guitar is just an all-around win. Now, this is not as heavy as a Gibson Les Paul custom. This does feel like, you know, one of their chambered style bodies. It's less weighty, but yeah, man, it's a lot of fun to play. I like this guitar a lot. Let's go over to clean setting. God, my Les Paul guitars, clean channel. Am I become boomer?
Now I am become
Boomer.
the destroyer of worlds.
Bridge. The neck. And the middle. We don't have any coil taps or anything like that on this guitar, but this is just a really great value point if you're into certain Gibson things like the open book headstock, the diamond mother of pearl inlay, the block mother of pearl inlays on the fretboard. I mean, there's just a lot of very Gibson-centric things going on with this guitar, which makes sense. Epiphone's like Gibson's brand, so what did you expect? Okay, last but certainly not least expensive. Let's move on to the Gibson Les Paul Custom. After playing all these guitars back to back and then going to this one, there's not a tremendous difference in the way this guitar sounds or feels, even compared to like the Firefly. This definitely has a thinner neck. This is the heaviest out of the bunch as well, if those things matter to you. You know, one of the things I noticed is when I'm picking it up like this, we have the 70s style strap buttons on it, so I keep poking myself. But you know, the real premise of this video is like, what are you paying for? I want to explore this at the end because I do have a few thoughts and opinions that I want to create a dialogue with you guys about. Like, I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions on it as well. But just feeling it and playing it and listening to it, there's not a tremendous difference between this and the Epiphone, or even like the Firefly, for that matter. Now the Gibson Pierce will tell you, but those guitars are not Gibsons. You are correct. Does that justify the massive price increase? Yes and no. Like I said, we'll get into that more later. Let's go into the clean pickups now. Okay, so bridge. The neck. And the middle. It's fine. I don't really notice a massive difference in these pickups versus the Epiphone. I think actually out of all of them, for the style of music that I play, the Firefly probably had the better sounding pickups. We're really splitting hairs here in a lot of ways, I feel like. Man, you could just tell these pickups are not voiced for me at all. They're probably more voiced for, you know, 70s style music. Don't tell anyone I played that riff. We're just gonna pretend like it didn't happen. I don't want a copyright claim. So let's go over all these different guitars and let me sort of try and break it down where your money goes when you buy each one of them. So the Firefly is obviously the best bang for your buck. It's crazy to me that in 2025, you can spend $200 on a guitar and that it plays pretty good and it stays in tune and it sounds good and aesthetically is nice to look at. However, it is sort of a Chinese unauthorized copy of a Gibson Les Paul. If that bothers you, you know, then it is what it is. I know that doesn't bother a lot of people. The Firefly's real strength is in its value. You can buy these things new for $200 and often sell them for more money than you buy them for new on the used market. It's the only guitar that I know of that's like that. The only real downside to playing a Firefly, like maybe you don't enjoy the neck thickness, that's a personal thing. But the downside is that if you want a Les Paul style guitar, and you probably are gravitating towards this and what this looks like. And a lot of that is aesthetic, but it is a quality that I think is valuable on a guitar. And if you're playing a Firefly, I mean, it looks like a fake Les Paul. Let's just call a spade a spade. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I also think if you're buying a Les Paul because you're into the Les Paul-ness of it, you might never be truly satisfied every time you look at the Firefly headstock and realize that's not a Gibson headstock. It seems like a dumb little thing, but a lot of times these dumb little things matter. Another thing that might matter to you, if you're really you know, into the idea of like a Les Paul is you do have ball end stainless steel frets, which is not really something you would find on a Les Paul. It's a little bit weird, but nonetheless very comfortable to play and insane to find at that price point. Now, if we're moving on to the Eclipses, I talked about the EC256 in this video, but this would apply to the EC1000 as well. These guitars, again, if you're very into the traditional idea of a Les Paul and all of the stuff that comes with that, an Eclipse is probably not going to cut it for you for a lot of the same reasons as the Firefly, but just more extreme. Like, this is more of a modern hard rock metal guitar, really. And maybe those are things you look for in a guitar. Maybe you gravitate towards that more than a traditional Les Paul style guitar, but they are dramatically different because of those things. So those are the real big differences between those. Now, again, if you move up to an EC1000, like I said, $700 to $800 on the used market, you get a lot more features. But an EC1000 is $1,100 new. It's still cheaper than the Epiphone. You get a Tone Pros bridge, you get locking tuners, an ebony board. I mean, there's just a lot that you get for your money on an EC1000. Now we move our way up to the Epiphone. I think that if you want a traditional Les Paul custom guitar, this is the best bang for your buck. It's $1,300, but factor in that that does include the hard case. A lot of the things about the inspired by Gibson Les Paul custom Epiphone, God, that is a tongue twister of a name. We're just gonna call it the Epiphone. You know what guitar I'm talking about. A lot of the things about the Epiphone are really in line with this Gibson Les Paul custom. You have an ebony fretboard, you have similar-ish frets, you don't have the fret nibs, you don't have keystone tuners, you have the kidney bean tuners, but that's pretty easy to remedy. If that bothers you, you know who you are, but it definitely bothers me. And after going through and playing these guitars back to back, I really feel like the only major downside to the Epiphone is it has Epiphone on the headstock. I mean, you even have the open book headstock. Now, if you want to save yourself $500, clams, whatever you want to call them, if you want to save yourself $500, you could get the Epiphone Les Paul custom with the Kalamazoo style headstock. But I feel like the group of people that these new Epiphones are aimed at are the people who want this. They want this aesthetic. They want the open book headstock. They just don't want to spend $4,000 on it. Which then brings me to the Gibson Les Paul Custom, $4,000 new. Why does this guitar cost $4,000 new? I mean, we have an aluminum bridge. What is going on here? The reason that these guitars are so expensive, in my opinion, and I would love to hear yours down in the comments, but I think that these guitars are so expensive because of the legacy brand that Gibson is. Gibson is not trying to reinvent their brand. They could make guitars where the headstocks don't break, but they don't. And the reason that they don't do those things is because they know very well who their customers are. And their customers want this. They want traditional specs. They want the things that they built in the 60s and 70s. For better or for worse, that's what their customers want. And my feeling is if they put out a Gibson Les Paul Custom at that $1,300 price point, made it an import guitar, it would actually devalue their brand a little bit and potentially affect the used market as well, because a huge part of Gibson is these collector's items. And that's a lot of the reason that people spend so much money on these guitars. And the people that buy and sell and collect and trade Les Paul Customs that would spend $4,000, $5,000 plus on a guitar, they know all the flaws with Gibson. They're very well versed in them. I'm sure they're aware you can get a better guitar for a lot less money, but that's what keeps this ecosystem of Gibson going, is these super collectors that are willing to spend that much money. I mean, why would they sell these guitars for $2,000, you know, when they know that their super fans will pay $4,000 for them? Capitalism, baby. So ultimately, my conclusion with these guitars, I did this video for myself as much as anybody else. My conclusion is, I think that for me, the Epiphone is the correct purchase. Let me explain why. The Epiphone has almost all of the mojo that the Gibson Les Paul Custom has. It just doesn't have the name on the headstock, and it is an import guitar. It's unlikely to hold its value, but if you're buying a guitar for yourself for playing and you want this vibe, I think that it's a good spend. The only thing it really needs is you just gotta upgrade those kidney bean tuners. What were they thinking? All right, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, if you use any of my links, it helps out this channel tremendously. If you like this video, make sure to do the things so that YouTube knows to suggest you more of my videos in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.